For this particular film study, I shall discuss the film that I have chosen, Modern Times. Directed and starring arguably the most influential person in entertainment history, Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin Jr., or as many of you know him best as Charlie Chaplin. It is a 1936 American silent comedy film in which his iconic character, the tramp, struggles to survive in the modern industrialized world. It is a comment on the desperate employment and financial conditions many people faced during the Great Depression, conditions created, in Chaplin's view, by the efficiencies of modern industrialization. These film elements that were debatably the strongest in Chaplin's Modern Times would have to be the acting and the cinematography. Let us start with the acting. The evidence that shows acting at its strongest in the film would have to be this particular sequence in which the tramp, being so used to repetitively tightening belts over and over again, has gone loony and was losing control of himself, all because of working on the same thing, tightening belts. Since he is a master of body language and definitely knows whence and which is the right time to include sound in his filmography during the 20s and 30s due to his use of timing, Chaplin reflects that in the acting by having his eyes wide open and fidgety movement with his tools as he shows what happens to a person once they work on something repeatedly and endlessly. Another sequence that shows acting at its finest would have to be the roller skating sequence in which the tramp and Ellen, portrayed by Paulette Goddard, are in the department store as they were about to wear their rollerblades and to have some fun. Whilst the tramp is in rollerblades, blindfolded, Ellen shows genuine concern and worry to him as she is frightened that the tramp might fall from the balcony. Goddard shows that emotion with a shocked look in her eyes, her hand in her mouth, and, for lack of a better word, stumbles in her rollerblades as she tries to save the tramp from his near-fatal accident. With the audience's perception of how the actors are portraying the characters, it is thanks to their body language that they brought in personalities, emotions, dreams, and such things to their characters. Now let us move on to cinematography. The evidence that shows cinematography at its strongest in the film would have to be, surprisingly, the ending. Once the tramp and Ellen ran away from the police, they ended up on an open road. Whilst being there, Ellen laments that their struggles were futile, but the tramp reassures her. At that, the close-up shot shows that the tramp and Ellen are about to walk as they put on their hopeful smiles, and then the full camera shot shows both of them walking down the road towards an uncertain but hopeful future at a bright dawn. The background has been illuminated by the sun, of course, as everything around them is in a hazy color tone despite being a black and white film. This is to imply to the audience that even if there is despair and loss in the world, hope will always prevail. Another sequence that cinematography is, dare I say, symbolic, would have to be this little moment once the tramp has found a job from a newspaper ad and is running towards a nearby factory where he can be employed. This particular shot has an important idea to convey. Sure, you could say that the tramp is running towards a factory, but there is more to it than that. For instance, there is a clear sky during the morning, which is to imply to not only the tramp, but also to the audience that maybe he has a seemingly clear and bright future. Keyword seemingly, mind you. In other words, the tramp is running towards his bright future and has been thinking his luck might actually come to him, not knowing trouble was about to start soon. One bonus sequence that showed symbolism in cinematography would have to be the beginning of the film, where it starts with a flock of sheep rummaging about and then fades to a crowd of people rummaging about into work. It represents how people at the time were treated like livestock, all because they were ramming, shouting, and even rushing each other out so that they can get to work on time and become a part of a monotonous society. Both the acting and cinematography played a very significant role in creating the film. Without these ingredients alongside the writing, editing, and sound, they wouldn't work together and wouldn't have the same impact as it did to the audience in 1936. I recommend this film if you are into older comedies and the fantastic art of silent films. If you want to see a film that has a relevant social commentary and to have a good laugh from one of the masters of silent comedy, go see it with your own two eyes. That's all there is. There isn't any more.